Hi, welcome to the presentation of Good 20 from the course Econ 2901, and our topic is the impact of crime on the economic development. Isn't that obvious? I don't need your research to tell me the answer. Yes, indeed, like the logic many of us have. With a lower crime rate, of course, it provides a safer business environment, hence introducing higher foreign and domestic investment so that we can have a higher GDP over N. Pretty clear common sense, probably you and I have also supported by many literatures. But I would like to introduce you a different opinion today. Do you ever think of with a higher crime rate so that you have a feeling of uncertainty of your long-term income and you will have a higher saving rate? And according to the solo group model, a higher saving rates will have a higher steady state outputs can be reached. It seems it makes sense in a little weird way, but never mind. With this question mark, we will try to establish our study one step further. In this paper, we would like to introduce you different regression model using the world data and the Hong Kong data to show you the hypothesized relationship between crime rates and the economic development. And we will provide a theoretical analysis of the effect. And in the second part of this paper, the discussion will mainly focus on the prevention of crime and the determinants of crime. And here are the data and the methodology we used. We used crime rates, the international homicides per 100,000 people in 2018, and we have GDP per capita measured in US dollars, and we take a not log value on that. Unemployment rates and expected years of schooling are used in the second part of this paper as the hypothesized determinants of the crime rate. As I just said, in this paper, several different regression models are adopted. The first one, the simple regression models, measure the relationship between GDP per capita and the crime rates. The second one, we use a quadratic regression here, which is intended to show a more complicated relationship between crime rates and the GDP per capita. And the third one is related to the second part of this paper. We would try to decide whether unemployment rates or expected years of schooling is statistically significant to affect the crime rate. And here I shall pass the time to Alfred to let him introduce you the result.
Thank you, Benjamin. And now I would like to introduce our study results. The table 1 here shows the regression result of how the crime level will affect the economic development. So let's start with the Hong Kong time series data first. An overview of the time series data from 1980 to 2018 of Hong Kong is presented in the figure 1. The x-axis is the crime rate, which is calculated in intentional homicide per 100,000 population, while the y-axis is the log value of GDP per capita. It can be seen that there's a strong negative correlation between the two factors. So from table 1, we can see that a 1 unit increase in the crime rate will decrease the log GDP per capita by around 0.2 unit at the 1% significance level. So in other words, on average of 100,000 population, um, one more case of intentional homicide occurs, the GDP per capita in Hong Kong will be reduced by nearly 1.6 US dollar. However, after the global and the long linear regression model are applied, the result is totally different from the result in the last time series analysis. The graph here shows a more complex relationship between the crime rate and GDP per capita, so which is a parabola line. And so depends on the initial value of the crime rate, its effect on the GDP can either be positive or negative, which means a rise in intentional homicide cases comes with a diminishing negative impact on economic development at first. But when the crime rate reaches above 5.9, the increasing positive effects set in. Although the result may seem against our intuition and the first glimpse, and also the result in the time series analysis, but in reality, there are several examples supporting this phenomenon. For example, Las Vegas is one of the most notorious crime cities, while Hong Kong is, on the other hand, one of the most safest cities. But their GDP per capita is roughly the same, so which means their economic development are quite similar. So this example suggests that the society's safety is sacrificed for the prosperous gamble industry in Las Vegas, and the drug trading in Colombia is another example. Drug trading may lead to turf wars between various criminal factions, but however, on the other hand, drug trading also contributes to the economic development largely in Colombia. So it is reasonable to observe a parabola relation between the two factors. And we believe this relation is fit the reality better. And now here comes the another table for the regression result of how education and expected years of schooling will affect the crime level. The multiple regression here tells that there is an insignificant positive correlation between the crime rate and the unemployment rate. So which means providing more job opportunity is not that effective as people thought when it comes to crime prevention. But fortunately, the negative relation between the expected years of schooling and the crime rate is spot at 5% of significance level in the study. So which means a 1 unit increase in schooling will decrease the crime rate by around 0.25 units. So in other words, a 1 year increase in the expected years of schooling will reduce the number of intentional homicides by nearly 26 cases per 10 million citizens. So now we have a conclusion in crime prevention. So when it comes to crime prevention, it's better for the government to invest more in education sector rather than the labor market. And it is shown that investing in education is more effective. But our study suffers from two major limitations. First, determinants of the GDP per capita that correlate with the crime rate are ignored by the above simple regression, such as the efficiency of law enforcement and public security. However, these kinds of factors are challenging to quantify and difficult to obtain. So as a result, the above regression analysis may suffer from the omitted variable bias, so which may damage the persuasiveness of the results. And second, there are several categories of crime, such as poverty crime, violent crime, but due to the fragment and limited data access worldwide, only the crime rate calculated in intentional homicide is accessible and is selected in our study. So we believe this crime rate alone may not represent the overall crime level in different countries. So some countries' crime levels are underestimated, while others are overestimated. So we suggest that similar research in the future should address the above problem and improve the accuracy of the data. And now comes to the conclusion section. After the study, we obtained two major conclusions. First, instead of a linear relation, a more complex interaction between crime and economic development is shown in our study. So it depends on the initial value of the crime rate, its effect on GDP can either be positive or negative. Therefore, policymakers should first consider whether the country is located on the right side or the left side of the U shape before deciding the implementation of the intensity of crime combating policy. So, for example, if the country is located on the left side of the U shape, it is advised that government should take action to control the crime level, as it could improve the country's GDP per capita. But if the country is located on the right side, the situation becomes more complicated. So policymakers have to measure the loss and gain from containing the crime level. Second, if governments still plan to fight crime after conducting the cost-benefit analysis, it is advised that more resources should be allocated to the education sector rather than providing more job opportunity. Because from our findings, high education level will reduce the case of intentional homicide. Um, it can be explained by maybe well-educated people may probably have a higher opportunity cost in committing homicide. However, on the other hand, no significant relationship between the crime rate and unemployment rate is discovered, so which means a higher unemployment does not necessarily lead to more homicide. So when it comes to crime fighting, investing in education is more effective than improvement in the labor market. And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you.